For more insights on the Chinese regime's internal struggles and instability, the upcoming meeting with President Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping, and how the U.S. operation in Iran is impacting China. For more on all this, joining us is David Zhang, China commentator and host of the YouTube show David on China. And of course, we have Casey Fleming, chairman and CEO of Black Ops Partners Corporation. He's also the author of the new book, The Red Tsunami. So first of all, welcome both. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So Casey, what I wanted to talk to you about was tell us about the upcoming meeting known as the Two Sessions and why it's raising internal political interest among analysts right now. Just talk to us about your general thoughts here.
Well, it's very significant because because Xi Jinping has not really planned for these attacks on Venezuela, Mexican drug cartel, and Iran. So that plus his internal housekeeping and house cleaning of loyalty is very significant. So you put those two things together, he's basically caught on his back heels. He's cleaned out his entire cabinet of people. He has no war operational generals left, anybody who's seen war or commanded in war. Loyalty is so much more important in a totalitarian regime. And so I think if he's reading the tea leaves, pun intended, Taiwan should be off of his target list, at least for the interim.
All right, David, I think we got your sound back. So please continue. Talk to us about your post.
Yeah, it's basically what Casey was saying. Over the years, Xi has essentially destroyed its ability to fight a Taiwan Strait war, including the most recent, obviously, the generals Zhang Youxia and He Weidong as well, both of his left and right vice chairmen. So I think the point I was trying to make with that post, while it's half joking but also half serious, was that the 200 generals is effectively a representation of the current PLA combat capabilities, but also if you consider the reflection or the experience of the reality in Iran right now is the Chinese equipment can also be something that we need to talk about in its effectiveness. And I think another point is the reliability of China as a partner. All of these are questions that its allies need to ask.
Okay, so Casey, I wanted to get your thoughts on the purges that you're aware of that happened within the CCP. What is your assessment there? Where is this going?
Well, he's actually started from scratch. In a totalitarian regime, loyalty is absolutely required. And so he had potentially a coup coming up after him, so he basically cleaned house. He's hoping that the second level, the junior officers, can lead him through this thing. But again, nobody's got combat experience. And plus the success of the last several instances, basically the WEF did, and the meeting there did not go the way that he wanted it to. And then coming right off the heels of that, you've got Venezuela, drug cartel, Iran as extremely strategic partners with the Chinese Communist Party. Those basically put the CCP on notice. But again, the point I want to make to everybody is all roads lead back to the CCP. Remember, they are the grand puppeteer. They're the grand strategists of this anti-US, anti-freedom, total communist movement that's going on in the world. It is, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 9.5, and death by 1,000 cuts, they're about 950 cuts in. So the message is, don't take your eye off the ball. Don't be distracted by the current, war of the week. The total focus should be on the Chinese Communist Party. And the point is, yes, they're hurting economically. They may go into a very dark place from an economic perspective and a military perspective, but they have what's now called a cornered rat syndrome. That goes for the IRGC, and that also goes for the Chinese Communist Party.
I'll just reiterate one more time your point, Casey. All roads lead back to the CCP. But David, if you were to characterize the level of instability within the Chinese Communist Party, how would you describe that?
Well, a great example is the two sessions going on right now. Zhang Youxia is still not removed from his assembly representative role. And that tells us that there's infighting, there's different factions still at play. And what we're seeing on the surface is not a clear representation of what's inside the party's power struggle. And so in times of what's happening around the world, the lack of reactions in particular with Iran, I think it's a great indicator that right now the CCP is all about shrinking its focus to stabilize internally first. Obviously, there's like we've been talking about for years now, the economic issues. A lot of these are long-term problems. Now, we could see that, as Casey mentioned, the corner possible scenario, we could also see the alternative, which is that they just simply end up not being able to do anything. Now, both of these scenarios, we should be prepared for it. My personal sort of take right now with the current state of the party is that they're a little bit more messy than before. So the chance of them going on something like Taiwan could be smaller, but it doesn't mean that we should let our guards down.
Okay, Casey, so you said earlier that we shouldn't get distracted by the war of the week, but I still wanted to ask you, what is the effect of the operation in Iran going to be having on Chinese leadership right now? Strategically, what might they be thinking? How are they reacting to this?
Well, Ukraine was a test bed for the CCP. And so all of these they're watching very, very closely, and they've got to be absolutely nervous. The power and the might of the U.S. military is very strong. Our ability to handle some of the new technologies like drones, so on, are very strong as well. But you cannot count them out. You just absolutely can't. They may go into remission for a while, but that cancer is coming back. And it's going to come back with a vengeance. What you can expect is them to amp up and increase their efforts around all other methods of unrestricted warfare, which are biological, which are drugged with fentanyl and all the other drugs, cognitive warfare, online, TikTok, other social media that they've compromised, mainstream media in the U.S. that they've compromised, some of our government leaders that they've compromised, Wall Street. You can watch them amp up. They've got the people. They've got them dedicated. Watch them amp up the unrestricted warfare piece of it to try to weaken us even further at a more advanced rate. Don't expect them to count them out and to their expanse and their success to this date is unmatched. It's remarkable at their destruction, infiltration, and subversion of the United States and the free world. So the message is do not count them out and expect them to fight back, even stealth, with unrestricted war.
All right, message received. Now, David, earlier you said, you talked a bit about the two sessions, and local people travel to address the central authorities to petition, to raise issues of concern they may have. So can you just talk to us a bit about this? How does this petition system work? How is it handled by the regime?
Yeah, so in Beijing, you have this office that people supposedly you can go to ask questions to beg the authorities to get whatever it's causing the misery in their life to be solved there. In most cases, if the case is very impactful and is going to cause a lot of trouble for the government, they will physically send people, plainclothes cops, or just people to block these individuals from going to Beijing. They'll kidnap them, escort them into the police station, keep them from going to places like the airport or the train stations. And the goal here is to maintain stability, right? So the less noise you can cause, because remember, the two session, like any of its rubber stamp or official ceremonies, are supposed to be perfect. There's supposed to be no mistakes being made here. So if you have people who are literally telling you that there's something wrong with the country, well, that's the worst thing that can happen during these times. So that's why they ramp up surveillance, ramp up security, and ramp up the need that everything is simply, it's a Potemkin village and everything has to be perfect inside of it.
Okay, just a couple more comments here from each of you. Casey, I really wanted to get your thoughts on what do you expect when Trump meets Xi at their upcoming summit in April?
The last meeting was extremely weak. Xi Jinping definitely won that last meeting. In my opinion, Trump came back with his tail between his legs. This one, Trump's going in with extreme power. He's got 4 definite strong hits in his repertoire, and so he's coming in with a position of power in this next meeting. It'll be very interesting to see. Last time he came back and said he's going to allow 600,000 Chinese student spies back into the U.S. and in our U.S. universities. He allowed the technology, the latest technology of our AI chips with NVIDIA, and there are several other things that he came back that did not bode well for the United States. So it's going to be interesting to see, and hopefully he'll come back with a lot more wins than he did the last time.
Okay, so David, I'll give you the final thought here. You heard Casey say that President Trump is going into this meeting with tremendous power, and I was actually talking to Chris Chappell yesterday about this very issue, and he gave the analogy that you're seeing two mafia bosses going head to head, President Trump and Xi Jinping, and President Trump has the upper hand here. I made the joke yesterday, President Trump is going to make Xi Jinping an offer he can't refuse. But in all seriousness, David, give us your final thoughts on how you think the meeting is going to go.
Yeah, I agree with what Casey said. This meeting, if honestly, I have questions right now about whether Xi even wants to have this still, because right now there is really no cards in his hands that he can play to be a bargaining chip for Trump, because it's a total one-sided sway from when it was last in Korea. So I really do think that something is meant to be, in the sense that we're seeing this total shrink of China's global influence. So I think this time it's going to be very different than what we saw last year.
Okay, terrific comments. No surprise from both of you. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.